first, we're going to just talk about the difference between working as an employee or being a manager, the boss, executive, team lead, whatever you want to call it. You are responsible for other people. So I want to get into management. It was a request from one of my subscribers, Laura Stars. She requested that I make a video discussing management. So I thought I could tie that into this video here. After we talk about that, we're going to talk about the financial ramifications of being an employee or working for yourself, and the differences, even if you make the same amount of money, the differences that it can make in the amount of money you're able to keep. And then the last part of this, I want to discuss the separation of the mind from the body, where in your mind is the boss and your body is your employee. Okay? You gotta hang with me here. I think it's extremely interesting, and I believe it's a life hack. And I think you'll want to. I think you'll want to hear my take on that. So for starters, employee versus boss. I'm going to quickly run through my employment history for those of you that don't know, just so you have a better understanding of why I am or should be considered a valid resource on this topic. I started in fast food prior as a young boy, 13, 14. I mowed yards, shoveled driveways. Once I could get a job at 16, I went to fast food, was not in fast food long, and was able to get a job at a carpet cleaning company / janitorial company. So I worked there until 20 years old or so. But I was able to work my way up into a team lead position, so I ran my own janitorial crew at the end. And interestingly, I went from cleaning that building to working for the company that I was cleaning the building in, but it was a factory job, and it was a union job. I could have done 30 years there. I would be retired right now. The same age, I would be getting a check probably for $4,000 a month right now for the rest of my life, with health care and everything else provided, if I would have stayed there. But I don't think I would be alive today. That job, I just couldn't do it. I could not do that job. So I decided one night while working at that factory job, I worked 4 10-hour days, so 40-hour work weeks, but you got a 3-day weekend. But those 10-hour shifts felt like 10 years. It was awful. And I wanted to sell, so I started off selling electronics, at the time it was VCRs. DVD players might have just been coming out. Laserdisc players were still out. Washers, dryers, refrigerators, kind of like whatever town you're in. I'm sure there's an electronics store. Best Buy is what's popular around here. But it's like a Best Buy. That's where I worked. And I went from there to selling cars. While I was selling cars, I worked my way into management. I first became a finance manager, and then a sales manager, and then a general manager. So I worked, but you'll notice what is left out of that is an education. I never was formally educated like college, but I do feel like I did a very good job educating myself because of the inferiority I felt for not having that. I tried to overcome that, and I likely overcompensated for that feeling of inadequacy that I had. It's also called imposter syndrome. So because I was in management, I always had that feeling like maybe I don't deserve to be here. Maybe I don't deserve to be the leader. It was, for me, and this was early on towards the end, I felt much more comfortable with the position because I had just done it for so long, and my performance level it could not be argued with. The success that I had at the dealership level was greater than anybody else I know or even have heard of as far as success. Now, that doesn't mean, I will say this, let's not take into account the owners in that scenario, because the owners own dealerships. I'm talking about working as an employee. As an employee, I don't think anybody has ever been able to do the things that I was able to do. So I have a very good performance record as a manager. I think the key in managing people is being able to relate to them and making decisions on what is best for them. And it may be, it's kind of backwards thinking, but if you do what's best for the employee, it will be what is best for the company. Because what is best for the employee, you take two people into account, employees and customers. What is best for your customers and what is best for your employees will, in the long run, be what is best for your company. But most companies have been corrupted by greed, and so they focus on profit margins. And of course, a company has to be profitable to stay in business, but I believe that if you focus on doing the things that are best for your employees and customers, it will in turn create a bigger profit margin for the company. I believe that. And that is the mindset that I managed with. And to this day, I'll have previous employees call me and just either check in with me, ask me questions. I feel honored. I know that if I died, there would be a lot of my previous employees at my funeral, and it makes me feel good. But at the same time, so would the owner of that dealership. He would come to my funeral because I did a wonderful service for him. But yeah, I think, I know it's kind of basic, and I hate to just kind of touch on this topic, but I really think that management is that simple. I think back to what made me become a manager, because look what I do today. I could easily still be a manager, but what would I choose to do? I'm a salesperson. I sell real estate, so I'm a realtor, but in essence, a realtor is a salesperson. And I do that because that's the part of the job that I love. And it's why I wanted to get into sales in the first place, because me and a client, face to face, what can I do for them to help them? How do I help them get what they want? That is the part of sales that I love. I love that. Whenever that transaction is completed, it's just like it's like a hit of dopamine. It's like I helped them. I completed it. I started it from "Hi, my name is Derek" all the way to the end of the transaction. And with real estate, it can be years, years long. And so when those transactions close, it is just like, it's like a constant still like that. It gives me that sense of purpose, a sense of accomplishment. If you're not subscribed, will you please subscribe? But why did I get out of that? If I was in sales and I was doing good, why would I have gotten into management? Well, because I worked for managers that I knew if they had to come back to the sales floor, they would go broke. And I just couldn't stand it that I had to deal with that. I would have to go in and you go tell them this. Okay, I have to go out and I have to tell the client that. And I'm thinking in my head, this is the wrong decision to make. But as an employee, I had to do what I was told. So what happened to me was, I thought to myself, if someone good could get into that position, you could make something magical happen. If someone good could get in that position of power, of control, you could create magic. And that's what I did. I got in that chair and I made the right decisions. I hired the right people. I treated them good, with respect and dignity and appreciation. And I used to say that my job was making men out of boys, because younger people would come in and, like me, when I got into sales at 2021, I was that young kid who, the ambition is what drives people to sales typically, because sales is an unlimited, you don't have the financial cap like you have with a salaried position or an hourly position. If you make $40 an hour and you work 40 hours a week, you know you're going to make $1,600. It doesn't matter how good you do it. It doesn't matter how bad you do it. You made $1,600 as long as you worked your 40 hours. If you're paid $2,000 a week, $100,000 a year as a salary, you know that each week you're going to make $2,000 and bring home $1,400 or whatever you bring home. And so that is what you lose if you get a job in sales, because sales says you can make as much as you can possibly make. There is no cap, but there's also no safety net. Now, some sales jobs have a safety net, but if they have a safety net, there probably is a realistic cap on what you can make, because the safety net costs money for the company. Therefore they can't pay the commissions, or won't pay the commissions. But that's what drove me to sales, that the thought that I am in control of my own destiny. And I think trying to get back to management, I think the key is to just, by making those decisions for the people, that what is best for them, you get into you also have things like conflict resolution, where you have problems. Not everything is rosy and glory, right? You're going to have all sorts of different situations. So you also somewhat become like a psychologist, because you're involved with so many other people's lives. People that call in late, hey boss, this is what happened and this is what's going on, or hey, I gotta have my kid's sick, or you learn about life, people's lives, and your employees become somewhat like kids, where you're responsible for them. And you know things about, oh, that one's married, that one's not, that one has 4 kids, that one's mom just died. It's a heavy weight. And truly, it's why I got management. I was in the car business for 26 years, but in management for 20 years. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but it can be rewarding. But I think, it boils down to caring. I've heard it said that people leave managers, they don't leave jobs. And I had a great track record of keeping employees. My employee retention numbers were fantastic because people liked working for me. And I was hard to replicate as a boss anywhere else in the world. People from my prior career still call me for car advice, and I now send them to one particular individual who used to work for me, who still sells Toyotas in the area. And he's at a different Toyota store than the one that I ran. And so I kind of feel weird sending him my clients, but he's the best salesperson I ever worked with, that I ever hired. He's the most like me that I've ever found. He said to me the other day, when I asked him, how do you like working there? He said, Derek, Jesse is his boss's name. He said, Jesse is as close that I've ever come to find as working for you. And I thought, wow, that's really a pretty good compliment to be paid. So that's the key, I think. It's caring. If you're going to be a manager, you need to care. You need to make good decisions focused on what's best for your customers and what's best for your employees. Yes, it has to work for the company as well, but when in doubt, err on the side of the employees, and you'll go far in management. I was untrained, right? I just knew in my brain, think about what you wouldn't want to happen. You know what's broken, and that's what I could do. I could see what was broken by working there as an employee, in that business as an employee, as a salesperson. And I just carried the things that I said this would make it better, and those were the changes I worked to implement. And primarily it was focusing on customers and employees rather than focusing on what's best for the bosses and what's best for the company. Because, again, it works that way. The other way is more abrasive. The other way, look, crooked companies are profitable too, but the employees are miserable. They're doing unethical things. It's just, there's a constant turnover because nobody wants to stay there. Nobody feels good about what they do. So that's why I say, when you build a team, when you build magic, the company prospers, and the company can see that, this way is a good way. Now, let's get into the financial side of employee versus boss. Now, we're assuming in this situation a boss owns the company. So as an employee, when you get a paycheck, the employer has already taken the taxes out, right? They've already deleted the tax, so you don't have to pay it on your own. You just get what's left, and you move on about your life. And maybe at the end of the year, when you finalize your tax return, sometimes you get a little money back, right? And sometimes maybe you have to pay just a little bit more. The point is, your taxes are handled for you. On the boss side, if someone owns a company, they have to do their own taxes. When their paycheck comes from themselves, which is coming from their customers, whoever they're collecting money from. However they're bringing money into the company, they take money out of that. So all of that accounting needs to be done. Well, the government gives these people an ungodly additional amounts of opportunity to be able to save, invest. The tax implications on these two different people. If this person $50,000. This person is likely going to bring home $60,000 in their pocket after all is said and done, maybe $65,000 in their pocket after state, federal, everything. Less than that when they start talking about all the stuff they buy and it goes to sales tax. Likely they keep $50,000 in their pocket, but just paycheck related, let's say $65,000 out of $100,000, $65,000 comes to your pocket. If you live in California, it's a lot less. This person makes $100,000 and owns their own company. This person could literally have $110,000 if they do proper accounting, if they make the right investments, if they take some of the money and reinvest it into the company. I mean, you could literally pay none. So you could certainly have more than your future. My point is the things that you can do. For example, I think right now the cap on the amount of money you can put in your 401k is $19,000, maybe 18,900 or something like that this year. Is the most you can invest in your 401k. Over here, we have, it's not called a 401k because you're not an employee, but it's called a SEP, a self-employed pension plan. It's a SEP IRA, self-employed IRA. I can put $66,000 in. That's money I don't have to pay tax on. I can't even invest 20 grand over here if I wanted to. I'm not legally allowed to invest or save that much money in my pension plan. Over here, I'm capped at, this year I think it's 66,900 is what I could invest. It's not fair, but it's the tax code. So you can sit and complain about it not being fair, or you can find a way, like what you could cut hair. If you cut hair and just, like, I've always felt like here's a wonderful business idea, and I know they exist now, but a long time ago I was going to open up a mobile barber haircutting, and I would like go to car dealerships, and what made me think about this was like I would have to leave work to go get my hair cut, and I hated leaving work because I was afraid of what I was going to miss when I was there. But I had to go get my hair cut. I'd come back, and needless to say, somebody had walked in and just laid down and said, I'll take that $80,000 car right there. And I missed a sale. But I thought, wow, what if a company just pulled in here in a box van, and in the back, like a motorhome was set up, like two or three, or even just one barber stations with a sink and all the tools, and one by one guys would come into that motorhome and get their hair cut, and then the traveling barbershop would go to the next place of work, kind of like a food truck, but a hair truck. I'm telling you, it's a wonderful business idea. I just gave it to somebody. If you go out and do it, if you hit it big, take care of me. But there's just a lot of things you could do that are running your own companies. Like if you're a plumber, I would try to be my own plumber today. In my bathroom right there, I have two sinks, and one of the cold water shut-off valves was dripping. Well, fortunately, I can just shut my water off just to this bathroom, and I have a cold shut-off and a hot shut-off in my bathroom. I need cold water because I can't just take a full hot shower, but because it's just a drip, I can turn the cold water back on. Anyway, long story short, I've been dealing with this as I've waited for this plumber friend of mine. It took him about 10 days once I called him to get to my job. Now, if it was an emergency, I could have got him out, but he put me on the calendar, and I was 10 days out. So I dealt with that, but he came out here. He has his own company. When I wrote the check today to him, I wrote it out to Russ Keene. The guy's older and he doesn't have, bank apps or anything. He's old school. He takes cash or checks. But he's his own boss. He's got his own van. He rolls around. He does what he wants. He doesn't have a boss. He's his own boss. When you're in sales or when you have a company, your clients, your customers are your boss. They are the ones that tell you what to do. And so you're gladly serving them because they're paying you. And they're at your mercy still. You still get to have say in your schedule and when you come and when you leave. And if you take a lunch break, that's your decision, not your customers. They're just there to instruct what they want done and what they need. But anyway, which brings us to the final stage of this video, which is mind over body. Mind being the boss, the body being the employee. I like to think this is a life hack. So imagine that your brain is a separate entity. Your mind, your conscience is a separate entity from the body. Your mind, is going to tell the body what to do. Body, you wake up today at 6 o'clock a.m. or whatever time you want to wake up. Body, you work out. Body, you be hygienic. Body, you eat the right things. Body, you work hard. You work 10, 12-hour days right now to get yourself out of a hole. You are controlling the body. And I believe that by understanding that these are two separate entities, it's like you're controlling a robot. I believe that this is truly how we operate, and people let the body win. People listen to the body more than they listen to the boss. And I think this gets people in trouble. The boss knows what to do. The boss knows what is right. The boss has to control the body. And if the boss in this situation is weak, the body will be weak. So I think if you do try to say to yourself, okay, this person over here needs to activate this person over here, when you separate it, you understand that it's not as difficult as we make it out to be. It's truly just a discipline. And when you feel like two separate entities, it doesn't hurt as bad. Now, there may be some of you out there going, that's a mental illness theory. Okay, fine. I feel plenty stable, and it does work separating that and having, it's not like you have two thoughts. You have one thought center. That is the boss. And you have one control mechanism, thoughtless. This is just simply a vessel that is controllable. This doesn't have to endure all the, this doesn't have to work like the arm or the fingers or the legs. This just controls. You are this. This is the machine part. It's at your control. You can tell it what to do. This is also part of this. This is separate from this, meaning that everything I say is what I am telling the machine to say. separating, just understanding that you are in control of your own body, of whatever it does. You are the boss to make it do what it needs to do. This doesn't have an emotion. There's no emotion here. I tell it to move and it moves. I make it move. If I don't make it move, then it would just lay there. If I wasn't my hands' boss, it would just lay there. It would not move on its own. So I have to control it. And all your wants and desires are in here.